Hello, welcome to the Craven Chronicles, your go-to podcast to discuss the highs, the lows, and everything in between supporting Fulham FC. Today, we'll be previewing the Sunday's game against Man United, fifth round of the FA Cup at Old Trafford. Big game. I'm delighted to be joined by Manchester United correspondent for The Athletic and co-host of Talk of the Devils podcast, Laurie Whitwell. Laurie, thank you for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, looking forward to this. Yeah, it's been a tumultuous time for Manchester United, but hopefully the FA Cup, from our perspective, can at least provide some respite.
Of course, the holders of the cup, which sounds kind of
Yes.
hard to believe, given how the season's going.
Was it all a figment of our imagination?
Well, just on this season as a whole, then, just wondering what it's been like covering United as a journalist. I mean, 15th in the league. I imagine you probably had relatively low expectations heading into the season, but how underwhelming have you been by the results so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think coming into the season, you knew it might be a struggle because of the way the previous season had gone, finishing eighth and finishing the season in such bad form, albeit then picking up just at the very final stages to win the FA Cup. But having Eric Ten Hag as manager, all the uncertainty around him over that summer, I think the expectation was that it was going to be a tricky thing to navigate. Him then coming through that, obviously changed his coaches, and maybe there's a freshness around it. There were a number of signings in the summer, so perhaps some hope. But I think when familiar patterns started to emerge, then I think people felt that it was going to be another season of struggle. I think they were a little bit unlucky at the start of the season, perhaps not against Fulham on the opening day, but certainly in other matches away at West Ham, away at Crystal Palace, where they just couldn't convert the chances, and that ultimately proved fatal for Ten Hag. And then when Ruben Amorim comes in, you think, okay, this is a guy with a big prestige from Sporting, who's won the title there, very charismatic and outgoing, and can certainly shoulder the responsibility of being Manchester United manager from a public point of view, but the results have been even worse. I think the points per game ratio is down on what Eric Ten Hag had, and he came in when he was 13th as well. So it's certainly not the result that I think anybody was anticipating. Certainly not the people in charge at the club, who you can question over their decision making. So yeah, I mean, they're kind of just lucky, right? That Ipswich, Southampton, and Leicester are so bad this season. 12 points the gap to relegation places, because at the moment, oh, sorry, 13 I think it is now actually. So 30 points at the moment, and you do struggle to see exactly where they're going to pick up wins. But yeah, it's been a lot more difficult than I'd anticipated. They obviously just have to get to the end of the season, write it off, and then see what they can do in the summer.
Yeah, that's wild that you're sort of mentioning like looking over your shoulder as
Yeah,
a
crazy,
club
right?
like Manchester United. You said on latest episode of Talk of the Devils, when you're looking back on the Everton game, you said it's one of the worst. I think you said the worst 70 minutes of football you've seen all season, and that at 2-0, it looked like bigger questions might have to be asked, so broader questions. What were those questions? Do you think is Amarim's position, if he keeps on picking up bad results, is it in jeopardy, or is it not that extreme yet?
It's a fair question to ask, even though it sounds, kind of remarkable, given he only was appointed in November and we're in February now. But I think the way that results have gone, those kind of doubts inevitably creep up, don't they? I feel like Ineos and the people in charge at Manchester United have made this call, and they have to see it through. And I think then even bigger questions would be asked of them if they then decided to change course. He will have agency in all this as well. Obviously, he's a proud man. He's mentioned, he's confronted the prospect of him one day not being Manchester United manager already. In terms of if he had to change his ways, then they'd have to find a new coach. And talking a little bit about sometimes a sacking can be liberating for a manager. So yeah, he certainly doesn't shy away from difficult issues. How that then plays into the players' response to, I don't know, but he's obviously managing and coaching how he sees fit. But I feel like they have to stick with it. They have to. He's had one player come in the January transfer market who's looked quite promising actually in the three games he's played so far. Patrick Dorgu, wing back. This system that he wants to implement needs players that are suited to it. And yeah, whilst you can shuffle a few around and maneuver players into different positions, he obviously has to have players that are actually, equipped for exactly what he wants and better players. I think the quality of the squad is very low.
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier, United 15th in the league, but you are in the fifth round. What is a realistic ambition for United this season? Is it a top half finish? Is it a cup run? Or yeah, what is it?
Yeah, top off finish. It sounds absolutely
I know.
bonkers, doesn't it, to be
Yeah,
talking in these
I was just saying
terms? I
that
mean,
10 years ago. Yeah.
yeah, it's unprecedented the depths, I suppose, to which they've sunk this season. Um, I mean, to be honest, even top half feels remote at this point because the way they've been going, just doesn't feel like they are equipped to put a run of results together. So I think that they have to think of the Europa League as the big goal, right? Because that is the thing that gets them back into the Champions League potentially, and that would be absolutely transformative for United in terms of the finances, in terms of the stature of the place. So if they can somehow get through those knockout rounds, Real Sociedad in the next phase, the last 16, it's going to be hard, but you feel more likely that they've got a chance in that than making a play of it in the Premier League because they've gone unbeaten in the Europa League this season. I think the only club to do so. So yeah, I mean maybe that's their salvation, like the FA Cup was last season at the end of this one.
And then finally, just before we move on to Sunday's game, I was wondering, with Ratcliffe's ownership, as an outsider looking in, it seems like such a toxic environment, sort of behind the scenes. Do you think that sort of trickles down onto the pitch and it kind of contributes to what we've been seeing from the players?
I, I certainly think there's an element of that in the, you're making all these redundancies. There's going to be staff that are very upset around the place. The morale is low, absolutely. Depends who you speak to in terms of how low, but some people say it's on the floor, lower than that. And so that inevitably has to creep in. I mean, Amarin addressed this in a pre-match press conference recently, where he said, "Yeah, as much as you kind of want to sort of keep the football bubble intact, inevitably there's going to be some permutation, some permutation, some some punctuation. I don't know what word I'm trying to say there. It's going to permeate, right? That the people's impression of their thoughts on the club. Players are going to feel that, and yeah, you want morale to be good around the place. You want the players to bounce into training. I sense that that's not the case at the moment, and so yeah, I think that is a factor that they have to consider when they're making all these decisions.
Of course. Now looking ahead to Sunday, it is of course 4:30 kickoff at Old Trafford. Not the best record. Fulham, of course, got that win in the league thanks to Alex Iwobi last minute heroics last season. But apart from that, pretty slim pickings, and especially at home as well. This season Fulham have lost 1-0 in both games. I thought Fulham were worth at least a point in both games. Is that a fair assessment? What was your perspective on both those games this season in the league?
Yeah, two games where United got lucky, I think, and sort of escaped with one. Obviously, Joshua Zirkzee coming off the bench to apply a finish in the first game at Old Trafford. We haven't seen much of that from him since. That killer instinct to get in the box and arrive onto a cross with the right timing. And then obviously the game at Craven Cottage was just non-eventful for the majority of it. Fulham probably shaded it, and then Lisandro Martinez has a shot, and there's a fortunate deflection that brings it in. I think maybe United in that game were at least showed some resilience and they were certainly more cohesive than they had done previously. But yeah, Fulham were pretty good in both matches, I think, and yeah, incredible that United have actually done the double over them this season.
Yeah, I thought 0-0 would have been completely fair for the
Yeah,
most recent game. That was a terrible game of football.
yeah,
But the last time Fulham played United in the FA Cup, 2023, when Fulham were 1-0 up, I believe it was the quarterfinals, and then Willian gets sent off for handball on the line. And then I don't think. I mean, it'd be interesting to hear what you think. Have you ever seen a team self-implode as much as Fulham did? Mitrovic sort of shoving Chris Kavanagh, um, and then all kicking off on the touchline. What are your
yeah.
memories of that game? And yeah, it was crazy.
Just chaos. Yeah, again, Fulham were really good, weren't they? And they obviously maybe they think it's bad fortune, but I think the referee was sort of justified in his decisions really, because Fulham, did lose it. Mitrovic, marching around, and Marco Silva. Obviously, he is a guy that I think is emotional, and is not afraid to express his opinions to the officials. So yeah, quite a bonkers end to the game that looked like it was going to be Fulham's for the taking. So yeah, United again got away with one there.
Yeah, what do you make of Marco Silva as a manager? Could you see him maybe managing a sort of Champions League side in the near future?
Well, I mean, obviously he was looked at by United, wasn't he, in this sort
Yeah,
of
yeah.
carousel of candidates around Eric Ten Hag's potential departure around the FA Cup final. Ultimately, Ten Hag stayed, and I don't think anything really progressed with Marco Silva. But he certainly he's come back, hasn't he, from I think a pretty bruising time at Everton, and this idea when he first came through at Hull, where I think he had a really strong reputation. And people I think liked what he was trying to do, but then there's also this sort of sway of opinion that thinks, okay, is he really all that? Is it the Emperor's New Clothes? And this kind of sort of, I don't know, this newfound way of coaching. It's kind of not all it's cracked up to be. You need some old school in there, but I think he's shown this season and last season with Fulham that actually he's got that tactical flexibility to grind out results when necessary, just have that edge in games. I've been impressed by what he's able to do, and he's certainly getting good performances from people that I think you thought, just weren't going to do it anymore. Alex Iwobi, is one clear example. I think the signing of Emile Smith Rowe has been really good. I know he's injured at the moment, but he's another one. Raul Jimenez looked like he wouldn't, be able to do it in the top flight anymore after his injury, but he's had a really good season and actually displaced Muniz, hasn't he, who I thought was really good last season. So you've got these options in different areas of the pitch. I think he's able to kind of, keep the team going pretty well. I think they've had a really good season. I think that's down to him.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of players there. Iwobi, he's been a bit of a fan favorite this year. I think he's been excellent. And yeah, Silva definitely can bring the best out of players, especially players that maybe discarded at other clubs, which is really nice to see. Are there
Yeah.
any other players in the Fulham team that you worry about and you think could punish United on Sunday?
Well, I always like watching Anthony Robinson play, partly because United have not had a left back for about 2 years. So I think I look at him and think, could he do what United need? That athleticism down the left flank, putting the crosses in. I think he's got a great record for assists, hasn't he? Now United have signed Patrick Dorgu, so I guess that's a position that they may be okay for a little bit. But yeah, I think he's a really good player and someone that United need to be watchful of.
Yeah, I'm very worried about the summer.
You think people are going to come in for him?
I think so. I think given his age, his ability, I could see like a well, yeah, it's good United have signed Dorgu because I could see him going there. Liverpool maybe. I'm hoping they go for Kirkes
Liverpool,
instead, but
yeah, Liverpool's a shout, isn't it?
I think he'd be a good fit there. But as long as we get good sum of money, I wouldn't mind too much.
Go on, how much is he worth?
Oh, I think at least 60 million. I think as
Wow,
maybe I'm being a bit biased, but I think because what he offers, there's not many left backs that can do what he does,
yeah,
and also given his worth to Fulham in terms of replacing him, maybe 50, 60. But
okay.
I
Has he
think
got a
that'd
good
be fair.
contract at the moment? Has he got a few years left?
I think he's got a good few years left, so that
Okay,
would be that's something. But yeah, he's about 28, so 27, 28, so
okay.
in his prime in theory. But I was going to ask, so Fulham have struggled against bottom half sides this season. That's not a dig at United. That's the facts.
Yeah,
And the blueprint to beat Fulham, if you watch the Crystal Palace 2-0 win at Craven Cottage, the blueprint is to sit back in a low block and kind of counter. Um, I don't expect United to do that on Sunday, but yeah, how do you expect United to set up and beat this Fulham team?
yeah. I mean, obviously they'll play the back three system. And am I right in saying Fulham? That's what Fulham predominantly play, or does he mix and match Silver?
It's predominantly 4-3-3, but he's done a five at the back a
Yeah.
few games, experimented
Okay.
with it.
So it'd be interesting if there's any match up
Mm,
there.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, that'll be what Amrin goes with. I mean, to be honest, he's down to the bare bones anyway, really. I mean, I was at his press conference yesterday and he said that there's no everybody back for the Ipswich game, which is on Wednesday night. We're recording this on Wednesday, so looking ahead to Sunday, I don't know if there'll be that many people back either. So he really, I mean, the change that he made at Everton on Saturday rather, was Garnacho off, Ugarte in, so he kind of firmed up the lower part of midfield, and then had Xerxes and Bruno as the sort of two number 10s, but it did. I think, I mean, it didn't work. They were awful first half and first 70 minutes really. And Garnacho actually did do some good work when he came on. Not everything perfect, and that's obviously something that he's got to work through. But I feel like he's certainly, United are a better team with him on, at least. Maybe he's a substitution, I don't know, but yeah, it feels like he's not got that many options to shuffle it around anyway. Maybe, Chido Obi gets a bit more minutes as well. He came on. He's only 17 now. Striker came on for Rasmus Højlund, who's had he's having a really tough time of things at the moment. I think actually at Craven Cottage, that was one of his worst games, Højlund, where the ball wasn't sticking to him, and having that ability to have a striker that can hold up the play in midfield, when you're trying to build from the back, is really important. Obviously, Fulham have got that with Raul Jimenez. So, yeah, I don't know if he can't really change it too much. I think you could probably name the team right now, maybe one or two players different.
And then in terms to flip the question, what would you say is like the kind of blueprint to beat you this United side? Well, what do Fulham have to do to get a result?
I mean, well, set pieces, they've been pretty good at that, right? Haven't they, this season? Am I insane? So,
Improved,
maybe
improved.
improved. Okay.
Yeah.
And for some reason, in my mind, I've got Fulham score from corners, and at Old Trafford in
No,
particular. Was that last
that was
season?
actually that was a frustration at the start of the season. We just couldn't
Okay.
beat the first man from corners, but
Right.
we have scored a few in recent weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, United are pretty bad at defending corners, so I think target that. And, clearly, if you can get at United through the middle with speed and aggression and pace, I think that is something that they still aren't able to contend with. The athleticism of United's midfield is yeah, lacking. I mean, Bruno tries very hard; he runs everywhere, but he's not like the most physical and aggressive. And Ugarte, certainly, that's, maybe you wouldn't say that's a particular strength of his. And so, yeah, I think if Fulham can, yeah, go direct through the middle, I think they'll be have opportunities to score.
Cool. Couple more questions. Just on United, who do you think yeah, it's not been great, as you mentioned, the strikers not really producing. Is Ahmad's out for a little bit? Is that right?
Out for the season, yeah,
After the season. Oh, right. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So he's someone who's really impressed me. Is there anyone who is available that you think can hurt Fulham and you kind of expect to put in a shift? Is it like Bruno? Is it Garnacho?
We're getting down to such small numbers, really. Here, I mean, as you say, Ahmad has been the shining light of the season. Bruno Fernandes has had another sort of pretty good season, really. I mean, I think he's in a team that he's trying to do a lot of things, and maybe that's what brings him criticism at times, because he's trying too many passes. But certainly he creates chances, he scores goals. It was his free kick on Saturday that brought United back into a game that they looked like no hope of getting into. So definitely watch out for him. He still has that hunger and fire, I think. And yeah, Garnacho can certainly do something, but it feels like he's not. I mean, he hasn't scored for a long time. Him, Hoyland, Xerxes, they've all got, I think, 8 goals in the Premier League between them this season. Marcus Rashford's got more than them in the Premier League, and that's, a player that hasn't played since the start of December, and is obviously now, on loan at Aston Villa. So it's pretty bleak, United's goal tally in domestic competition. Whether they can rouse themselves for these kind of one-off games, I do think they have a certain capacity to do that. We've seen that with the Carabao Cup, with the FA Cup, and sort of progress so far in the Europa League. So yeah, maybe they're able to sort of produce something special. I mean, Xerxes has been a bit better recently as well, linking play. So I think Fulham have got to watch out for that. But it's certain there's going to be no fear for Fulham when they come to Old Trafford.
Right. And finally, can I push you for a result, score prediction for Sunday?
Um, let's say that United somehow rally themselves. Old Trafford's a bit edgy, and it kind of comes to this sort of crazy FA Cup ebb and flow kind of game, and they end up winning 2-1. Let's say that.
Do you know what?
Sorry.
I can just foresee that. I can envision us Fulham playing really well, deserving to win, and then just just another last minute Garnacho or something.
Well, that's it. Yeah, look at the last round, Harry Maguire offside and managing
Yeah.
to score. So I mean, yeah, no VAR, maybe that helps them as well.
Is there no VAR still for the fifth round?
I just thought it was for the whole competition. I haven't researched this at all. Obviously, I should have done, but yeah, I thought maybe for the. I mean, surely for the semi-finals and final there's VAR because I guess it's like
Surely.
Premier League teams at that point. I think they have to have it so that all the stadiums are able to use VAR, right? So it's
Right,
consistent
yeah.
across the competition. So I should probably look into that.
Just quickly, I actually quite like it without VAR. Like it's a bit of a throwback.
Yeah, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Maybe if you're a Leicester fan, maybe not. But
Yeah. Even then, I think they were like, fine, at least the game's over, because it wasn't the most entertaining game, and just the pause that happens in matches is just tedious. I mean, we had one at Goodison Park where an overturned penalty. I don't know, should VAR intervene there? It wasn't a penalty for me because Ashley Young has obviously dived, but he's had a bit of a shirt pull, so you're sort of thinking, well, should the on-field ref really be overruled in that environment? And then took 3 minutes to look into. Even the offside that they had, in the first goal, it wasn't offside. You could tell that straight away, and they were taking 5 minutes to deliberate over it, and the atmosphere just totally changed at that point. So yeah, no VAR would be a refreshing change, I think.
yeah, looking forward to it. Laurie, thank you so much for joining me on Craven Chronicles.
Thanks for having me,
Good
John.
luck. Not too much luck for the game.
Good luck.
But yeah, that wraps up this preview. Thank you so much for listening, and good luck. Safe travels, everyone traveling up to the game. And as always, up the Fulham.